This episode brought to you by Oodle Noodle. Leaders of the taste, Oodle Noodle brings the flavor of 8 countries to the West, now with 17 locations, including Airdrie and soon to be a location in Calgary. Welcome into BOA Banter Colorado Edition. Post-series, unfortunately for the Edmonton Oilers, they were swept by the Colorado Avalanche after falling 6-5 in overtime. It was a real roller coaster of a game. The Oilers go up 3-1. They blow the lead. Zach Kassian scores a late goal to tie it up. And then what felt like 2 seconds into overtime, Colorado scored. There was a brief moment of hope where we thought it might have been a high stick. It was not. The Colorado Avalanche are on to the Stanley Cup Finals, and we are sitting here watching nothing, just chilling. We got Printzy. Printzy's a Flames fan. He's been golfing for a month now since the Flames lost the Battle of Alberta. We've got Wanye. He's an Oilers fan. He's planning his summer now. And we got me, Cam Lewis. I am the impartial host. Printzy, I want to start off with you. What do you think about the Oilers right now? Do you think this was a successful season for them, or do you think getting swept by the Colorado Avalanche turned this playoff run into kind of a joke?
You know, as much as I'm sitting here, the fans not seeing this on video, I don't have a giant smirk on my face. I'm not laughing in your face because at the end of the day, the Oilers still took the Flames out in 5 games. I can't sit here and laugh and do this and that. Yeah, it's funny that you guys got swept. Would Calgary have done any better against Colorado? Probably not. Colorado is they're just a complete wagon. But to answer your question, I don't think that this sweep, as embarrassing as it is, should take away what the Oilers did this season, right? Having to, they switched coaches halfway during the year. There was talk all season of, we got to get a goalie, we got to do this, we got to do that, bringing in Evander Kane, as much as, he's so loved in the NHL, he did such good things for them. So to sit here and call the Oilers season, a lack of success or say it was a failure, I don't think that's the case at all. Like, we touched on this so much on this podcast that you got to do this, man. You got to build up these playoff runs. And, I would say this is year 1 of playoff runs for the Oilers, and they made it to the 3rd round. Whether they got swept or not, they made it to the 3rd round. They were close to the Stanley Cup. So no, would not call this a failure at all. Am I going to say that this was a massive success? No, but I think it was a good season for the Edmonton Oilers.
Right. You wouldn't qualify this as a massive success, Printzy? We got the conference finals, bro.
Like I said, I don't know if Calgary would have done any better. Would they got swept? Would the Arizona Coyotes have got swept? Probably not. So I won't call this a success.
That's harsh. It's harsh.
Wanye, what do you think? You're calling this a success, right? You're happy.
I think this is a great success. I think that a new era of Oilers hockey has begun the day Jay Woodcroft walked through the door, right? The last 2 years, the Oilers made the playoffs, but they're like under weird asterisks and play-ins and all this type of shit, right? Fine. This is an unqualified success in that the Oilers, I mean, they're going to lose some people for sure in the offseason. Teams always do, but the core pieces of this puzzle are here, right? And I think that the bar's been set. Like, if they don't make it to the conference finals next year, I think the season will be considered a failure. I think that they want to build off of this. I think that you saw a team that overcame a lot during the playoffs, right? And they damn near came back in the game last night. Like, Leon Draisaitl's working on one peg leg, right? That was one of the more fucking courageous things I've seen an NHL player do in terms of what he's playing with. Darnell Nurse has some sort of something ripped off some sort of something else. That doesn't sound good. And I think that these guys are going to heal up over the offseason, and a really good hockey team is gelled in the spring of 2022. And I think this hockey team is going to be around for the next 3 or 4 or 5 years in the most part. And I think we're going to see some pretty rad fucking shit as a result.
Yeah, I agree. I think another thing to consider is assuming the Flames don't have a complete meltdown of an offseason. As we know, Johnny Gaudreau is an unrestricted free agent. Matthew Tkachuk's a year away from free agency. There's a lot that could move around. It wouldn't be shocking if we saw another Battle of Alberta in the playoffs next year where the Flames have a chance to, get back at the Oilers. This could be a thing we see frequently because I can't remember a time in my life in which the Oilers and Flames were both good teams at the same time. This is it.
I've never seen it as a sentient human.
Right? Like,
perhaps as a child.
I have not either. No, I have not either.
They were both in the playoffs in 2017. Flames lost in the first round. Oilers got to the second. They were both in the playoffs in 2006, I think.
Yeah, Calgary got
bounced in the
taken out.
first round. Right?
They would have met the Oilers, but the Ducks took them out in 7.
Right, that's right. The Ducks took them out, and then before that, both teams were pretty much in and out of the playoffs 1 year, out the next year. Oilers had a good stretch in the 90s, Flames in the early 2000s, blah, blah, blah. But now here we are. So that's another exciting thing to look forward to. Hopefully, now I want to swing to some more kind of Oilery stuff. A lot of people were saying that Game 4's loss and ultimately the sweep is the fault of Mike Smith for laying an egg in the final game. Is that fair?
I think it's unfair after having gone to the conference finals to shit on any players as though they fucked up. Yeah. I think you sit here at the end of the year, what good is shitting on Mike Smith going to do? Mike Smith did the best he could. Mike Smith had 2 shutouts against the Kings, right? Is it Mike Smith's fault that they got swept? I don't know, man. You can point, if you want to be in the business of pointing fingers, there's lots of people you can point fingers at right now. But why come away from the most successful season in 16 years pointing at anybody? Why not be like, how do we get better? Right? Without Mikko Koskinen next year, hopefully the Oilers are going to be able to free up some cap space in the long run, right? Is Mike Smith going to return next year? Is he under contract?
Yeah, one more year.
One more year, right? So what is to be gained by shitting on Mike Smith? Mike Smith does not give me any feeling of safety at all as an Oilers fan. Mike Smith is like driving over one of them rickety old bridges and there's like no guardrails and a bunch of planks are missing. And you're like, one of these days I'm going to drive across this bridge. I'm going to fucking fall through into the river below. And every time you get across, you're like, thank God. Every time Mike Smith goes for a skate, I'm like, this is not the goalie I would pick, but okay, right? But can we improve upon a good team next year? Can we be a better team when the puck drops in October? Yeah. So let's be happy with who we have and let's look for new people to bring to the table, I think.
Yeah. It sucks that you just, with Smitty, he played quite well if you think about it, but it's just timely saves. That's the only thing. And
what was his save percentage? Like 920 though? Like it's crazy high.
Yeah, it was a crazy.
The last game brought it down.
Yeah,
to be fair, the last game he allowed 6 goals on 42 shots and ultimately finished the playoffs with a 913 save percentage across 16 games.
Right. So,
Mike Smith is not going to win you games on goaltending all the time, but he will some of the time, and the rest of the time it's going to be a motherfucking circus. And good thing you got Connor and Leon to balance out the boat. Otherwise, we'd be sinking left and right.
Fair enough, man. I mean, I'm used to it too with having Smitty up in Calgary too. It's just, he battles for 56 minutes of a 60-minute game, and that 4 minutes he lets in 2 or 3 goals, right? So I don't know if the option for the Oilers, with Koskinen being gone next year, is trying to find somebody that could be, the 1A to the 1B with Smitty. I think Smitty needs to realize that he's not a starter anymore, that he's got to, balance the load with injuries and whatnot. So if you're maybe able to do that 1A, 1B, I don't know the Oilers well enough to know what Stuart Skinner's at. If that's an option next year.
I think that, sorry to interrupt. I think that they could bring Skinner in and give him the backup while looking next year for somebody to ultimately replace Smith the year after.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like they should be kicking off a 24-month search for a starter while they sign Skinner to be the backup at good value.
Right. Yeah, I just don't know if you want to.
Now, that's not the Edmonton Oilers way, Printzy. Here's how we do it. We go, who's available? Nikolai Habibulin. Really? Who's that? The most often injured goalie of the last 5 years in the NHL. Aha! We'll sign him to a 4-year deal. That'll heal him up quick. Or we go, what else is going on in the goalie department? How about a 9-foot Finn no one's ever heard of? Will we get good value? You will not. You will pay top fucking dollar for this idiot. Who signed him? The guy we're going to have as our manager? No, in fact, by the time the ink is wet or dry on the contract, your GM has been fired into the sun. That's how we do things up here. So who are we going to sign this summer? Probably Hobby Bullen again.
Here's actually an interesting thing that I wanted to bring up, just because I haven't yet on this show. But back when the Oilers signed Mikko Koskinen after a very good season in the KHL, the Avs also signed Pavel Francouz that same offseason. They were the 2 KHL additions. And Francouz signed a cheap as fuck deal, like $925,000. I remember thinking, I was like, wow, this guy's so good and so cheap. The Oilers should have signed him.
Printzy, you want me to be super classy right now, or do you want me to be a petty shit? Which way you want me to take this?
I've dealt with enough classiness from Oilers fans through this whole process of the playoffs, so keep it classy.
All right. You got to hand it to Francouz, man.
Yeah.
You got to hand it to this guy to basically get what Markkanen got in 2006, because everything in Edmonton's about 2006. When Kemper was out, I was like, it is locked and loaded. This nerd is about to get shelled halfway to hell. And not only was he put in an admirable performance, apparently he's very popular in Colorado, and the teams rallied around him. And they said it made them play better as a team. So shout out to the opposition. That was a good storyline.
Yeah, really cool to see. I thought the same thing too. I thought the same thing. I'm like, oh yeah, they got the backup goalie who's barely played or anything. Connor and Leon are just gonna light him up. So, but I will give within Oilers Nation Waz a shout out, because Waz was running his mouth saying that Francouz is going to be the next Jake Ottinger. Well, you put that energy out to the world, Waz. What happens?
It slaps you in the dick.
You birthed a legend, Waz. Thank you, Waz. We appreciate that.
Poor old Waz. The only time he was ever tried to be controversial in his life, and it blew up in his face.
So another thing I wanted to ask you guys is, so it came into the series as McDavid versus McKinnon. And I personally don't think, like, McKinnon's a great player, undoubtedly, but I don't know if McKinnon's really the main guy on Colorado. To me, it's Cale Makar. That's his team.
Yeah, no, I agree with you too. And I think that a lot of pregame series and stuff like that, you had the matchup of, McKinnon and McKinnon and McDavid, and then you've got, Mikko Rantanen, and then you've got Leon Draisaitl, and then you go to the defense, and then it's Makar and
Tyson Barrie.
Yeah, exactly. So having Makar out there is like having another forward, which is crazy to say. I mean, the guy had 5 points last night. So yeah, I don't think the Oilers had somebody of that skill caliber, someone that could have stopped him. I mean, he's a special player. He's a modern day Bobby Orr. If that's too much of a hard take, but I'm going to call him that.
Wow. I was talking to a buddy about this little shit. I do not give one fuck about anybody the Oilers are playing. I'm not learning the stats, the opposition. I don't know, and I don't care. But I know everything about the Oilers. Coom, can you confirm?
It's true. Yeah, you can name very obscure Oilers from wherever and whenever at whim.
I got that on lock, and I still have the stats of today about the Oil. I'm never that wrong usually when I'm guessing at how everyone's doing. But anyways, people would think I don't know anything about hockey because I honestly don't know who anybody is. So occasionally players like Makar come up. I'm talking to my buddy. He's like, well, Makar's just picking apart the Oil. I'm like, who? He's like, the D-man. I'm like, which one? And I'm like, he's like, Makar. I'm like, ugh. He's like, dude. So he started sending me like links about shit Makar done where he wins in a 4-step foot race against Connor. They're both skating flat out and he beats Connor. I'm like, oh, that's not good. And he's like, he's literally like Bobby Orr output. Like Bobby Orr output. I don't think that this is McKinnon's team going forward. I think you're right. I think we're witnessing like a passing of the torch within the organization. And I think this little shit is going to be able to run the thing for the next 10 years, probably.
Yeah, they got him for 8 years.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
He's a Calgary guy, kind of, right? Is he from Calgary?
He is from Calgary, and fun fact is he played his junior hockey in the Alberta Junior Hockey League with the Brooks Bandits in 2016-2017. I was the marketing and
young Printzy?
Yeah, I was the marketing and PR person there. So I got to see Cale Makar as a 17-year-old. He was definitely a big fish in a little pond, and he went on to play university hockey at UMass up in Boston. And it's crazy. He skates like, people change their style or whatever, but he skates the exact same way, exact same equipments, tapes his stick the same way, skates the exact same way. So it's a little wild for me to keep watching him, just knowing the type of player he was back in the day, and incredibly humble kid, and was very helpful to me when I was the marketing and salesperson. Sometimes I wasn't able to sell something to one of our sponsors, and I would just bring Cale in and then sign an autograph and it would be sold. So
for
thanks,
real?
Cale. Yeah. Oh yeah. Guys would say no. They tell me to fuck off. And then I bring
you're a magic man.
I bring in Cale and they'd be like, what were you talking about? Oh yeah, I'll sign on the dotted line. So yeah. Thanks, Cale.
So him being a Calgary guy and growing up in that backyard and playing in the AJ, why didn't the Flames do every single thing they could have possibly done to acquire this kid? That's kind of embarrassing.
Because you probably would have had to trade Johnny Tkachuk, 3 first-round picks, maybe Monahan in there, and 3 or 4 A-level prospects to get him.
What the fuck? Was he picked first overall?
He was picked
Fourth.
fourth, man. And like, I think Nico Hischier went first.
Hischier, Patrick,
Joyzy.
and then Makar.
Yeah. And there was some wild story about the Flyers had zero interest in taking him. Like I think it was the scouts wanted him. And the
GM wouldn't do it.
Hextall came in and said, nope, I want Nolan Patrick. End of discussion. And the scouts were like, what the fuck? So sorry, Philly.
Well, since this is kind of also an Edmonton Oilers podcast, we should stop talking about the Colorado Avalanche and talk about the historically good playoff performances that McDavid and Draisaitl put up. McDavid 33 points, Draisaitl 32 in 16 games in the playoffs. There's only in the modern era, I guess, since like the 2000s, there's only 3 different playoff performances that have been better than what McDavid did. That was Braden Point, 2019-20 does 33 in 23 games. Nikita Kucherov in the same season does 34 points in 25 games. And then Evgeny Malkin's amazingly good 36 points back in 2008-9. That came in 24 games. It is absolutely batshit insane, the numbers that those two put up. And it's one of the biggest shames about the Oilers not going all the way is we didn't see these two have a chance then to break the all-time record, which is Wayne Gretzky at 47 points, which I think they probably would have had Edmonton gone to the finals.
Yeah, I think you shore up our D next year. You shore up our D. You get a couple tweaks. You try to replace the depth you're going to lose over the summer, and I don't see any reason why Connor and Leon can't have a better playoffs next year.
Yeah, I mean, if you extend the series a little bit longer, you're in the Stanley Cup. Of course, I think they would do that.
I don't think they're setting records that they won't break, is my point.
Yeah, I agree. Agreed with that for sure. Obviously, they played an easy team in the second round and had a couple point nights, but
as I say these words, like there's going to be more better games like this. My liver's like, no more. I'm like, shut up, liver. Ow, bitch.
All McDavid and Draisaitl need is just for the Flames to show up a little bit better next time and to take it maybe to 6 games because there's another 5 or 6 point game there. Markstrom, everything goes in. The Flames don't really have a blue line. Johnny Gaudreau isn't back. Checky's probably gone next year anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Man, Connor and Leon's performance this playoff, I did not think in my lifetime as an adult I would see Oilers this good. Like, I was the guy who convinced myself that Eric Cole was the answer that one year, right? And like getting Connor McDavid 7 years ago this summer seemed a moment ago in the grand scheme of things, and to see it kind of all come together now. Like, I consider this season to be very successful. I consider this to be a season where Connor and Leon were able to have a team around them that delivered on how good they are, right? I don't think they were let down at all by the organization. Like, the narrative that it's funny, you always hear people saying that Connor wants to leave, but I've never once seen anyone say Leon wants to leave. It's always just Connor, right? Like, just Connor would want to leave. When you see how happy Connor is bouncing down the hall after the BOA is over, and you see him hugging Cassian, and like there's one photo I have screenshotted on my phone for late nights, and he's so happy his like face doesn't even know how to like form the smile that he's having, and like his eyes are like wild as a motherfucker. It looks like a caged badger was let loose. And I think that he's having the career success now that for the next 2-3 years, it's not a question of like Connor McDavid being like this huge miss in Edmonton. A new era of our hockey has begun.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. Like, I didn't really think of that. Everybody's always like, oh, Connor's gone. If they don't make it past the first round, they'll make it past Connor's gone. But no one's ever said anything about Draisaitl.
It's like, oh, he's miserable. And he has a hot girlfriend and makes $9 million. He's cool. Like,
yeah.
I think
actually
they like each other.
Yeah.
I think it works. I think it's working. I think the plan is working.
Yeah.
The plan is working. Yeah.
The plan is working.
I think Leon did a good, he really stepped up with his injury and showed everyone how legit he is, because when he won his Hart Trophy and the Art Ross Trophy, people said, well, he's just a benefactor of McDavid. He plays on the wing. And then if he's not on the wing, when he's centering the other line, it's they're playing the other team's shitty players. So it's easy. It's just McDavid. But it's not. Like, you saw Leon, he's on one leg limping around in tremendous amounts of pain on the bench. And then he's going and setting up plays, shoving guys off with his body, making perfect passes, taking good shots. Like, it was an incredible performance. It was one that I think at this point now, if you still look at Draisaitl and think he's a benefactor of McDavid and nothing else, then you just are either a troll or you don't really understand the game.
It's interesting. Like, if anybody else on earth but Connor McDavid was on this roster, Leon Draisaitl would be the captain. Yeah. Right. And it's interesting to think what a Leon, the captain organization would be like. But I think as they're progressing in their careers, and this playoffs was a huge shift in, like you said, he's legit now. Like they're almost now starting to share the load of responsibility between the two. Yeah. And the narrative's changing from like Leon Draisaitl is just, what was the guy who used to play with Kevin Stevens? Like Leon Draisaitl's the Kevin Stevens in 2022 Oilers. Like, no, he's not, man. He's fucking legit ski, right? He's not, he's Mario and Yarmir level, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that he's willing to skate around on one peg, and like he's a dour looking fellow, our Leon, a German lad, right? Like he's known for his wit smile. Fuck, was he gutting through it last night?
Yeah.
And the fact that the panel on Sportsnet was like Kelly Rudy, I think, was like, shout out to Leon for being such a beast. Like the league has taken notice. Leon Draisaitl is a star in his own right, and he could be a captain of a team.
Good. It's possible.
He could.
There's going to be new Evander Kanes down the road that will want to come to Edmonton now. The storyline is also shifting away from Edmonton being a shitty place to play to it's Edmonton's era. And I think getting a couple value players to come in here and take a discount to play will go a long way to fixing our problems.
Agreed. No, I agree 100%. I got to witness what it's like up in Edmonton, and we've talked about it many times about how the rink is incredible. The ice district is amazing. Yeah, you might have to deal with a couple fans coming up to you in the grocery store and telling you to go F yourself because of that turnover, but that's just the price to pay when you play in Edmonton.
How about you send Uber Eats to get your groceries?
Like Connor, or you have your own personal chef.
Is that what he did? What are you talking about?
Connor, yeah, that's what, from what I've heard is, and you guys would probably know it better than I do, that obviously Connor can't really show his face much in Edmonton without getting swarmed. So he's got his own personal chef at his mansion, wherever that is in Edmonton.
I think that a guy like Connor playing in Edmonton suits him to a T. And here's why. Connor has no interests for the most part outside of hockey. Right? He's very smart, like extraordinarily smart, but you don't hear about him doing anything off the ice, right? Except endorsement deals. And he lives hockey 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. Well, guess what? So does Edmonton, right? And like, if Connor was in LA and Lauren's like, Connor, we've been invited to the Kids' Choice Awards. Connor, we've been excited to the... Yeah. Connor be pissed off, man. He's like, fuck, I want to go home and drink the pink and work out in the basement. I don't want to go to the Kids' Choice Awards. And I think Edmonton being so singularly minded and Connor being so singularly minded, I think it's a perfect fit. Connor doesn't want to go to the grocery store anyway. What the fuck?
No one does, to be fair. It's it is kind of a pain in the ass. But...
No, I mean, there are some types of players that are super social and they're out and about, like PK Subban. Right?
Yeah.
PK Subban would be a bad fit in the long run for Edmonton because he can't go out anywhere, and wherever he would, people would attack him, right? Mm-hmm. For better or for worse. PK Subban, I don't think would enjoy himself here. That's not how Connor rolls. Connor's not a very fun guy. I don't know if you're paying attention, Coom. So he doesn't really strike me as the social type.
So that's kind of a wrap. I think we've covered all of our topics, right? We've covered the game pretty much here. Now the question is, are we going to be continuing to do BOA banter? Do we want to keep talking? Do we like each other? Printzy, what do you think?
Yeah, I love the Oilers so much that it's been such a joy to talk about them after they beat my team, that I've had to actually sit down and watch these games and pay attention to them. And no, it's been fun, guys. Like this is this is what we try to do with the nation. We try to do some fun stuff and bring some new stuff to the table, and we've got the assets and the Flames and the Oilers to talk about them. And the reality is, as much as I'm joking about it, I love the game of hockey so much that I know what's going on in Edmonton. I watch the games, I'm not sitting down and watching every single game, but I know what you guys are doing up in Edmonton. So yeah, to be able to talk about this, and hopefully you guys enjoyed it. And like we talked about before, I think that the fans up in Edmonton have tried their damnedest to hate me, but I've done enough that I can to make them like me. So hopefully we can do this more going forward.
Well said.
You got any big plans for Flames Nation? Anything interesting going on?
Oh, yeah, Flames Nation. For anybody, I know that the Oilers market is a lot bigger up in Edmonton within the Nation products, but Flames Nation took a big step forward this year, and I'm not going to shoulder the entire load, but I was brought in to do a job, and that job was to bring Flames Nation to a different level. to make it more than just blogs and articles. And, we tried our damnedest to do pre-game shows, and we tried to do, shows from bars and try to do some Instagram live stuff. And we were at the Red Law parties and at games. And, you guys heard my stories of how I got put into a suite with Mike Commodore, and how I got, I somehow ended up in the wives lounge. I don't know how that happened. And up in Edmonton, me wearing my Calgary Flames hoodie up in the media suite, and Bob Stauffer almost strangling me to death. Like, these are just stuff that it's been a lot of fun to do. And we've got a big off season ahead of us at FlamesNation, because we want to continue to do this stuff, and we want to, the Oilers Nation, as much as we chirp them, they are the gold standard of how to produce content within the Nation network. And
you're goddamn right.
I will be mad enough to say that we want to emulate what Oilers Nation is doing, and do some more pregame shows and introduce more podcasts, and, get in touch with some of the alumni with the Flames and radio people and media personalities, and add more shows and add more people. It's just it's been fun, but we got a lot of work ahead of us, that's for sure, to get on the same level as Oilers Nation.
You have the distinct advantage of the Flames actually liking you and wanting to work with you.
Yes,
whereas up here in E-Town, it ain't quite like that, but that's okay.
Yeah,
that's
Ryan
all right.
Pike. They like Ryan Pike up there, that's for sure.
The fact that you got into the press box before Coombe did is pretty hilarious to me.
Well, it's because I don't live in my house.
Yeah, the fact
you're
that
also
I got
in Toronto. There is that.
Yeah, very true. The fact that I got in the Oilers press box before a lot of people within Oilers Nation.
That's the fun of Oilers Nation, though, right?
Yeah.
Like, at the end of the day, we ourselves aren't press, but we do work with people who are in the media.
Exactly.
So if you're like, are we in the press box? Well, sure. Like, let's go point to Jason Gregor, right? A contributor now for 14 years and the best radio show in town. Yeah, man, we're in the press box. Us personally, we are. We are not in the press box per se.
We're at the Pint, though.
That is our press box.
Yeah, the Pint is the press box. I had a blast in the Pint, I will say that.
Best bar in the world, baby.
Shout out to Rick. Rick took very good care of me when I was at the Pint.
Fantastic.
Rick is on ON Radio, hey?
Yeah, oh yeah.
He's on there on the strength of his character.
He is.
Like, is he in the media?
No.
He is not in the media. Is there anything that should suggest Rick is on ON podcast? Yes. Rick is the bomb. So of course he is,
man.
Right?
Yeah, man. Like, that's the thing. He's the
big man.
We won't reveal too much, because we don't want to give away too much for our fans, but there's hate between Oilers Nation and Flames Nation online on social media, but behind the scenes there ain't no hate. There's no hate.
It's good vibes only here.
Yeah.
Watching Rick watch a game is a game unto itself.
Oh, that clip of when the offside goal, when he's like standing there at the Pine, he's like, why? What? How? And then someone in the background yells like, "This is a fixed league!" Like, oh my god, I watched that back 20 times.
We were at a game one time together, and something happened, and he like tried to like climb over me to like climb on the ice. I'm like, "Where are you going?" Like, I don't understand. He's like, "I gotta sit on the edge of the aisle. I gotta be able to walk."
That's great.
Oh god,
it was a good season, man. It was a fun ass
It
year,
was.
and it was the funnest year in quite a while. And I think that building off of that, and not only from like an Oilers perspective, from a Nation Network perspective, and just doing shows that we think are fun and working with a larger and larger group of people and an audience, doing league-wide content through Daily Face-Off is something that is important as a company that we do. And like getting a Colorado person and getting a Boston person, that when the Oilers play the Bruins, we've been calling up this idiot for 10 years and telling him off. And we got 4 jokes that we still tell. Creating that network, whether it's Flames Nation or Oilers Nation, it's important to include as many people as we can.
Absolutely.
That's what we should spend the summer doing.
That's the plan. So if you enjoy this kind of content, then you should be excited, because we're going to make all kinds of this kind of content in the future.
We got to hit the golf course, Phil, first. As much as the Oiler fans been harping on us, we got to hit the golf course. So that's what you do when you get knocked out in 5 and you get swept. You go right to the golf course.
I bet you Connor worked out today.
Yeah, probably did.
And that should scare everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
I bet you didn't take a day off. I bet you he's like, well, I might as well go and do that set. And that tells me everyone's in big trouble come October. Leon, I hope to God slept in
Yeah.
I hope that they have a whole bunch of doctors do a whole bunch of treatments, and I hope he doesn't push himself until like July or August or September even. And if we found out that he didn't do anything all summer and wasn't going to be in the lineup until a little while, whatever is broken or injured needs to heal. And same for Nurse. Fuck.
Yeah. Fuck, that's bad.
What a beast. What a warrior.
Yeah, those guys need to take like nice, easy summers, and if it means they miss the first part of next season, that's more than fine, because key for next year's playoff run is the Oilers have to be at full health, and that's what we saw this year. They just couldn't get over the hump with two other key guys.
When they were climbing back into the game last night, and I'm like computing in my mind a game 5, you could just see how beat up everybody was. I'm like, I don't know how they could even keep, like, they're having to gut it out so hard and leave nothing in the tank to climb back in this game. I don't know what the fuck would happen if there'd been a game 5.
Or if they would have got through to the finals. Like, holy fuck. You don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be one of those guys like sitting on a flight to Denver and like a tremendous amount of pain.
Oh, God. Take it for what it is, man.
Well, that's a wrap on us. This was a BOA Banter Colorado edition. We'll be back at some point with BOA Banter something else edition. That's what we do. Thanks for tuning in. Best wishes.